let's talk about something that you've heard maybe in a khutbah that we've given, that you've heard maybe in a class that we've given, but let's just review the utilities of taqwa. Review the utilities of taqwa. Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse number 2. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the Quran in and of itself is a guidance for al-muttaqeen, hudal lil-muttaqeen. So the only way to receive actual hidayah, actual guidance from the Quran itself is if you have taqwa, right? Quran will never ever benefit a person if they don't have taqwa. One of our brothers in a chat was talking about trying to have a conversation with a group of Muslims who had left Islam. Like they had already left Islam. He told me about them before, how some of them, like they try to even make arguments against Muslims, they're ex-Muslims, try to convince people that Islam is wrong and stuff like that. And a brother, throughout the course of this conversation, he said, it was a joke, but it's really true, that normally people like this who leave Islam and they've, you know, become people who speak out against Islam, one of the common things that they all say together, that they always say is, I studied the Quran. Like, studied how? If you don't have taqwa, you can study the Quran from sun up to sundown. You can memorize Quran from front to back. You can recite it with perfect tajweed. You can know the i'rab of the ayat. You can know the Arabic and the meaning of the words. You can study different books of tafsir. But if you don't have taqwa, you will never ever find hidayah in Quran. And that's the first characteristic of the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it with, from chronological order, chapter 1 to 114. First characteristic of Quran is it is a source of guidance, but for a specific group of people, people who have taqwa. Now fast forward to Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 186. This is on this page. This is where we get the verse on Ramadan. And inshallah, in our part 2, we're going to talk about dua, because dua is a staple feature of Ramadan prep. You can't just get in Ramadan and think that you're going to stand for 25 minutes and dua al-qunut, ameen, ameen. Now, alhamdulillah, Ramadan is a great time for dua, but now is the time to build up your stamina and your spiritual cardio when it comes to making dua in the first place, right? So next week, inshallah ta'ala, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings us together in good health and iman, we're going to talk about dua. But let's talk about this verse. Actually, it's not 186, it's 183. 186 actually talks about dua. I hope you guys can see the change on the screen. Yeah. So, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 183, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had prescribed for us fasting, just like the people who came before us was prescribed fasting. And people, you know, in different khutbah, but you guys have been hearing this verse for years, for fundraising, you know, for describing the ayah front and back, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had written it for us, had prescribed it for us, had ordained it for us. But there is a caveat to this. Even though Allah had made it obligatory for us to fast in Ramadan, the effect that comes with fasting in Ramadan is actually conditional. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَعَلَّكُمْ, maybe, perhaps, possibly, تَتَّقُونَ, maybe then, like that you will actually have taqwa. So the byproduct of fasting, like the goal that you should strive for in Ramadan, is to attain taqwa. It doesn't mean that you have to have taqwa going into it. It doesn't mean that you have to have taqwa going through it. It means that whenever you come out of it, you perhaps will actually come out muttaqi, a person with taqwa. For all of the elements that go into fasting, abstaining from food and drink during the day, which is a concept of self-control. Prophet ﷺ said in the well-known hadith about Allah doesn't need the fast of a person who is foul in their speech. So you're just talking and cursing and all this stuff, but you fast, and like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need that. And everybody fasts when they go to sleep. So you sleeping all day isn't really fasting. So if you sleep fasted, you just sleep it. You can't say that's fasting. So some people, they stay up all night and then they sleep all day and say, yeah, I fasted. It was such a hard fast. You slept 8 hours during the day. So many times people, they wonder, why doesn't my heart actually connect in Ramadan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, if you are using the last 10 nights to really benefit from Ramadan, then you are like essentially getting rid of 2/3 of the month and saying, I'm trying to get the benefit of Ramadan just in these last 10 days. And some of us really, in the end of Ramadan, after you've been fasting and now you don't have these hyperglycemic headaches, and now, you know, you used to not eating all day and stuff, and you got over your grogginess from not, you know, drinking coffee throughout the day and stuff. Then once you finally get over yourself, once, you know, exams come to an end and the stress load of everything is kind of like slowed down, and you finally, in the last 10 nights, this is when people really start to feel the iman high, the attainment, like the feeling, the sweetness of iman that comes from attaining the taqwa. But can you imagine if, as opposed to doing it in the last 10 days or just on the night of the 27th or the last 3 days or the last 5 days of benefiting from Ramadan, can you imagine the effect that would come from benefiting through the month of Ramadan for all 30 days or 29 days, depending on the moon? I'm sure in one mazhab it's 31 days. Sorry. So the whole purpose of the entire month, not just a few days out of the month, not just the odd nights of the last 10 nights, the whole month is there so that perhaps you will attain taqwa. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't stop there when talking about this concept of taqwa. In Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 197, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about Hajj. This is where Allah begins to talk about the pillar of Hajj. You have a lot of people freaking out. Oh yeah, Hajj is coming because there's no Hajj this year. Hajj hasn't been canceled yet, and even if there isn't no like any Hajj, well, we talk about that. Yeah, Juj is coming because there's no Hajj this year. We haven't canceled Hajj yet. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove us from a situation where we have to cancel Hajj. I mean, but even all of that aside, Allah says to prepare and to take with you a provision, right? Zad in Arabic means to take a provision, but the best zad that you can take with you in Hajj is the zad, the provision of taqwa. Now, look, Quran being a means of guidance, okay, for the people who have taqwa, that makes sense. That's like an empirical thing. Taqwa seems to be a qualitative trait. Going through the month of Ramadan, the spirituality of it, a qualitative trait should be, yeah, I should come out of Ramadan with taqwa. That makes sense. But what does it mean to actually take with me the provision? Because azad is something that you pack with you. That's something that you take with you. What sense does it make for me to take taqwa with me? That's not the only place where Allah takes something that's qualitative, a characteristic, a description of spirituality, of being a Muslim, and says it's something that you need to keep with you. Because, you know, when it comes to Hajj, for the most part, what we taking with us is our, you know, our 5-star package. So we get our buffet on Yom al-Arafah and all this stuff, you know. So for many people, the best zad they can take is their $12,000 Hajj ticket, right? But Allah is saying, no, even better than being able to stay, you know, in a hotel that's close enough to count as being in Masjid al-Haram or whatever fatwa you're rolling with, the best provision that you can take with you is the provision of taqwa. Let's explore this type of description a little bit more. But let's talk about it. I didn't put it here, but let's talk about it in the lens of the ayah in Surah Al-A'raf, chapter 7, verse 26, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He had given you clothing. He had given you clothing, first and foremost, to cover your shame. That's the first reason. Covering your shame here in an eloquent way of saying so that you can cover like your nakedness, right? And it also plays into the story of Adam alayhi salam, but we don't have time to turn into tafsir class, but also to adorn yourself so that you look good. It's a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given us clothing so that we can look good. Brothers, make sure that you know, even though you're not going out the house in quarantine, you make sure you keep it tight, all right? But aside from those two things of covering your nudity, as well as looking good, adorning yourself with it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the best type of clothing, the best type of libas that you can wear is the clothing of taqwa. Now tell me what the clothing of taqwa looks like. You know, there was a fiqh discussion between modern imams about whether or not an American or a Muslim in the West should wear thobe. They say you should dress like the urf of the land. The Prophet ﷺ, he dressed like the people of his land. He did not dress categorically different. All of that aside, while we do know that there are a hadith that talks about a thobe, that talks about niqab, that talks about hijab, we have ayats in the Quran that describes hijab, even though we have these things that are features of the Muslim identity, right? These, whether it's a kufi or hijab or a thobe or an abaya or jilbab, etc., even wearing khufain, you know, all of these things are within the culture of Islam, not the culture of Arabs or Desis or Africans, but within the culture of Islam. We know that these are features of the Muslim identity. But no one would say, and you can look in any book, any collection of fatwa, you can look in any book on spirituality or tazkiyah or anything like that. No one says dressing in a thobe makes you more spiritual. No more than anyone says wearing an abaya or wearing hijab or wearing a headscarf or wearing a kufi. No one says that makes you more spiritual. So when Allah is talking about libasul taqwa, the clothing of taqwa, Allah is not saying dress like a Muslim. Allah is saying along with your identity of dressing like a Muslim, along with that also comes the concept of carrying taqwa, wearing taqwa. Now, something key about this ayah in Surah Al-A'raf, chapter 7, verse 26, is that means taqwa is something that should be seen on you. But obviously, you can't put on a taqwa shirt. And the scholars have talked about the preferability of dressing within the Muslim identity, looking visibly like a Muslim over not looking like one. But that's a part of a much larger discussion. So may Allah preserve those who go out of their way to do that. And, you know, it really is something that's difficult in this time. But it's certainly a part of taqwa, libasul taqwa, seeing the taqwa on somebody. So let's talk about the story of Habil and Qabil in Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse number 27. After, this is a story of Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel were the first two sons of Adam alayhi salam. Cain ends up killing Abel, long story short. But before Cain kills Abel, Abel, who is actually a prophet, he tells his brother, hey, look, you go ahead and kill me. If you want to do that, your sin is going to be on your hands, it's going to be on you. But I want you to know something important. Allah only accepts from people who have taqwa. Meaning a staple feature of Allah accepting your actions is that you actually have taqwa. Now, we talk a lot about sincerity. You have to have ikhlas. If you don't do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will not accept it from you. We know that that's true. But also, in this ayah is something that many people, they don't talk about or think about. Did you know that a condition to your actions being accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that you do your actions not just with sincerity, but that you also do them with taqwa? And this is something that Habil alayhi salam, that he had pointed out, but it's something that becomes a bit forgotten. And last but not least, I want to tell you, we've talked about quantitative things like, you know, guidance, deriving guidance. How guided I am from the Quran is relative to how much taqwa I have. How much taqwa I take from the month of Ramadan is relative to how much I put into my Ramadan. I can only take as much taqwa out of Ramadan as I actually put effort into Ramadan. So if I'm saving all my taqwa for the 27th, then I'm only getting 1 day of taqwa out of the month. If I'm saving it for the odd nights, then I'm only getting 5 days out of the month, or 6 days out of the month. If I'm saving it for the last 10 nights, then I'm only getting a third of the taqwa I could extrapolate from the month. But if I go into it every single day, every single night, trying to take something out of it, then this is how you maximize the amount of taqwa that you take out of it. It's an easy analogy. In this case, correlation does dictate causation. But what about taking taqwa with you when you make Hajj? Or what about the clothing of taqwa? All of these things should equal as one result on the Muslim. And that's actually found in this ayah in Surah Al-Talaq, chapter 65, verse number 4. Now, the ayah, the specific meaning of the ayah is talking about matters of divorce. Okay, so that's a specific meaning. Again, this isn't tafsir class, so we're not going to go too deep into it. But the general meaning of the ayah is it applies to everybody, whether you get in a divorce or not, whether you married or single, whether you fasted until you get married or whether you're not. Okay, and that is whoever has taqwa of Allah. Now, look, this is the superpower of the Muslim right here. Whoever has taqwa of Allah, Allah will make easy on them and take them out of any difficulty, any situation that they're in. Sometimes we look at the stuff that's happening in our lives and we don't necessarily understand, why is this happening to me? Oh, my life, and whenever I woke up, my nose was running, and yeah, it's just like weird stuff, right? Well, a key to getting yusra, a key to getting relief and ease in your affairs is having taqwa. And this ayah, chapter 65, verse number 4, there's a direct juxtaposition between this. Whoever has taqwa of Allah, Allah will take them out of their difficulty, will give them ease in their affair, versus the verse in Surah Al-Anfal, chapter 8, verse number 24. Surah Al-Anfal, chapter 8, verse number 24. What is the byproduct of what I am referring to? Because I'm going to come up with, inshallah, I'll have a pseudonym so you guys will know about it. But I'm going to come up with my own field of social sciences called psycho-spiritual something. I'll come up with a clever name. Maybe you guys can help, inshallah. But so there are psychological implications to actions and behavior. There are sociological implications to action and behavior. What is the implication of what I am terming taqwa abandonment syndrome? Whenever people abandon taqwa, Allah makes it really, really clear in a very, very scary ayah. Allah actually tells us, now taqwa, as many of you have heard, and if you haven't, this will be your first time, alhamdulillah, you get to hear it. Taqwa, it doesn't just mean like fear Allah, as you find in your Hilali and Khan translation, right? It doesn't mean consciousness of Allah, as you will find in nearly every khatira in America. Taqwa, it means protection. So to have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means to protect yourself from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger, because how can a person survive and have a good day if they're doing things that Allah is actively angry at them about? Or if a person is engaging in things that earns Allah's wrath and punishment in this life and the next, then how can a person try to find happiness in this life or the next? So taqwa means to guard yourself against the punishment of Allah and to guard yourself against His wrath, Jalla Jalal, which we're going to talk about a little bit more after the break. So I'll make this point and then we can take our break, inshallah. The end game of taqwa abandonment syndrome is that you, me, us, the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, all of the children of Adam all together, will face a fitna that will encompass us all together. When the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taqwa, the entire planet benefits from that taqwa. Now, many of you, especially our Ali Men alumni, may Allah bless you all. You know, you heard through Brother Musa Ramsey about the golden age of Islam. You know, I remember they used to do the 1001 inventions and stuff. The golden age of Islam. Islam was a world power, was the world power for over 1,000 years, right? During that time, the age of enlightenment, contributions to math and science, to architecture, even, you know, the fields of psychology and all the stuff, they trace back to Muslims, the medical field, on and on and on. You can see all of the benefits of that, from filter water to the earliest designs of cameras. So it wasn't just fiqh and wudu, you know. Muslims were active contributors to the society because Muslims had a conscious collective effort on having taqwa of Allah. Under the law of the Sharia, under divine legislation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the main thing that governs the people is taqwa, not, you know, Big Brother putting cameras in your house or anything. It's taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a lot of examples of that in the stories of the Khulafa al-Rashidin, as well as in the Salaf al-Salih, the righteous predecessors who came before us. Whenever us as an ummah leaves taqwa, and what that means, which all of you, you know, many of you have heard me explain taqwa. Taqwa means to know what Allah is pleased with and to do it, and to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is displeased with and to stay away from it. That's taqwa in a nutshell. An amalgamation of different explanations found in the book Taqwa, the provision for the believer, of all the statements of the Salaf al-Salih. It all comes back to the same point. Knowing what Allah is pleased with and doing it, knowing what Allah is displeased with and staying away from it. If half the ummah has taqwa, then that saves the ummah. If a third of the ummah, then inshallah it saves the ummah. If a tenth of the ummah, then inshallah it saves the ummah. But imagine when most of the ummah, 99% of the ummah, abandons taqwa. Now we're all in a fitna that we have to face all together. And the cure for it is taqwa. And alhamdulillah for everything. We ask Allah to remove the coronavirus from us, Allahumma ameen. But there was no better time that this could have taken place than just before the month of taqwa. So the reason that we're highlighting taqwa, again, knowing what Allah is pleased with and doing it, knowing what Allah is displeased with and staying away from it. And to our sister's question who had asked, earlier about how do we measure our actions by our intentions and also our results if we do something because we think it is right or wrong. It's one thing to have a thought. It's another thing to think about what Allah wants from you, right? And the highlight of taqwa in and of itself is that taqwa has a personal impact on you as a person. Being muttaqi, having taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of your affairs. Whenever I do an action, I want to know, is Allah pleased with this? Okay, then let me do it. What are the things that earns Allah's reward in this life and the next? All right, bet, let me do it. Okay, is Allah displeased with this? All right, if my creator is displeased with me, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with the creation. So let me stay away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is displeased with. That in and of itself, it has a personal impact on you, but it also has a communal impact on people. Based on that ayah, going to our other sister who asked the question of like the collective impact of taqwa on everyone, it also has an impact on the community. Because how can you have taqwa if you don't see it? That's why the libas of taqwa, the clothing of taqwa, the adornment of taqwa is important. The zad of taqwa, taking taqwa with you everywhere you go, it is important. Keeping taqwa in all of your actions is important. Having taqwa in your mind when you go to the Quran is important. Using taqwa as a means to get out of difficult situations. Even the ayah from Surah Al-Hujurat, chapter 49, verse 13. The akram of mankind, the noble of mankind is the one who has taqwa. Not the skin color, not the race, not the level of education. It's the person who has taqwa. And having people like that in your life and having people like that in your community has a positive impact on you on a personal level and on a communal level. Sometimes the way that we approach Allah's pleasure is through the lens of, I think that Allah is okay with this. Allah never asked you to tell him Jalla Jalal what you think he likes. Allah revealed a Quran from above the 7 heavens. Allah sent prophets from our father Adam alayhi salam, the first human being he created, to the seal of all prophets, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Allah sent people to tell you exactly what he's pleased with. You don't have to make it up. In fact, you making it up or having some individual disillusionment of, my Islam looks like this, or my 2020 Islam is different than the, after Hijrah, 7th century CE Islam. No, Allah is not unaware that it's the year 2020. Allah is the one that let the year 2020 come into existence. So we have to get away from what we think Allah is pleased with, and we have to get in the habit of knowing what Allah is pleased with. And Ramadan is probably really certainly is one of the best times of the year to really clear the slate. No person, just look at this. No person says, I think I can eat during the days of fasting. You can't eat, so you don't. No person is like, well, I don't think that we should pray Tarawih at all. Even if you don't go to the masjid yourself, you know that it's a good thing to do. Yeah, I don't really care about Laylatul Qadr. No, nobody says that. Everyone is looking for it, right? That's because Allah told us not to eat during the day. That's because the Prophet's sunnah was to pray at night. That's because we know the importance and the reward of Laylatul Qadr. Ramadan is probably the one time of the year that we put our personal philosophies to the side and we say, okay, what am I supposed to do? Does brushing my teeth break my fast? Now we want to know the fiqh of making sure that our fast is tight. What about knowing the fiqh of making sure that your salah is right? Bars? Okay, bars? Is that bars? Even that aside, like we see in the month of Ramadan, now we care about the fiqh of our fast. Now we want to make sure that, okay, I know it's going to be late, but let me go to them. We do extra because we actually care. We actually care. So if we do that in the month of Ramadan, then what about leading up to it? What about what comes after it? Now can you begin to understand why the month of Ramadan, it gives you taqwa, and why taqwa is so important in everything from your clothing to what you take with you for Hajj to how you can be the best person out of all the people alive to even getting relief in your difficult situations? It's a multifaceted issue, and it definitely starts with taqwa. And in the famous quote of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that's also found in the book Taqwa, the Provision of the Believers, which is an amalgamation of quotes from the Salaf al-Salih, from amongst the Sahaba all the way to the Tabi'een and the Khalif al-Salih who came after them. So from the quote of Ali ibn Abi Talib is, at-taqwa hiya. Taqwa, it most certainly is, al-khawfu min al-jaleel. It's fear of the most majestic. Fear of what exactly? You know that if you live a life that goes away from the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it's not going to be good for you in this life or the next. And Allah Jalla Jalal al-Jaleel is the most majestic. Knowing the majesty of Allah, why would you ever want to do anything to earn His punishment? And inversely, Fearing Allah's punishment means that you're excited and happy and eager to earn his reward. But Ali ibn Abi Talib didn't stop there. وَالْعَمَلُ بِالتَّنزِيلِ, and sorry for the alliteration, I don't have Arabic keyboard. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that easy. وَالْعَمَلُ بِالتَّنزِيلِ. Now, we're talking about, okay, how do I know, like if I should listen to the Sheikh or if I should listen to these people? Al-amalu bit-tanzil means that your actions are in accordance with revelation. At-tanzil is that which Allah had revealed. So if you have some Sheikh on YouTube telling you about something and he's talking for 45 minutes and he never mentions Quran and he never mentions Sunnah and he never mentions the ulama, he never mentions scholars, then what are your actions going to actually look like? We don't, in Islam, we love scholars. It's from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, you're not from amongst my ummah if you don't respect the people of knowledge. Hadith and the Sunnah. But then the person is not as important as the knowledge. We never venerate people of knowledge. Oh, you know, Sheikh, Dr. Imam, Mufti, Ustadh, so-and-so, is who cares about the person? We want the knowledge that they have. We want the knowledge that they have because that is from at-tanzil. And they can teach us how our actions can be in accordance with tanzil. If I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment, but I never, ever, ever care about what Allah had revealed in the Quran or made evident in the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, then how can I truly have taqwa? Well, qana'atu bil qalil, or rida bil qalil. This means contentment with a little bit. Now, contentment with a little bit goes a long way. Being able to say, alhamdulillah for what I have, as opposed to being like, astaghfirullah, look at all the stuff that I don't have. Because it's from taqwa of Allah to be grateful for the blessings that he gives you, not to be ungrateful for all of the things that you do not have. And it is important to know that what Allah gave us is for us and it's not for anybody else. And to know that Allah gave us what we have, whether it be by way of our personality, our talents, our intelligence, our beauty, our physique, the opportunities that we have in life, the wealth that our family has. You know, even if you're not rich, the difficulties that come with not having money is not the same as the difficulties that come with having it. The difficulties that come with not having it is not the same as the difficulties that come with having it. Whatever you have in your life, it is from Allah. And to want more and to say that what Allah had given me is not good enough. Now, we're not preaching none of that, oh, we just, you know, don't do anything, flip burgers at halal McDonald's. Like, no, pursue the best that you can in this life and the next. This is a part of ihsan. If you want to get PhD, get the PhD. If you want to be the doctor to end all doctors, then become the doctor to end all doctors. If you want to engineer something that makes engineers obsolete, then you be the one that does it. You make sure you trademark it so that you get the money, and you make sure that you put something in the sadaqah box with your boy in mind, because I gave you that idea, right? Be the best that you can in everything that you can. If you want to strive for great wealth, then go ahead and do it. But no matter what, never ever belittle the blessings that Allah gave you, looking at the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given you. All right? So, qana'atu bil qalil is to not want more than what had been allotted for you, and to be sufficed with a little bit. Eat a little bit. You don't have to eat a lot. Sleep. I'm not going to say sleep a little bit. But if you don't have to sleep a lot, then why are you going to put in a 10-hour sleep shift? Like, come on, you burn in daylight. Well, isti'dadu li yawm ar-rahil. And the most important thing is preparation, packing. Isti'dad is like to pack up, right? Preparation for the day of ar-rahil. You guys know about rihla in the triangle, right? Rihla is journey. Yawm ar-rahil is the day that you travel. Travel back where? Travel back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that you do in your life should be preparation for the day that you travel back to Allah Jalla Jalal. And if nothing reminded you that you will indeed go back to Allah, this coronavirus had done a great job to remind us of Yawm ar-Rahil, the day that we die, the day that we go back to Allah, Jalla Jalal. So from there, what is the fundamental basis of taqwa? Like, what do you need? The fundamental basis of taqwa is based on, based on your what? Based on your what? You want to figure that out? The fundamental basis of taqwa. Look at all the stuff we just talked about, from the quote of Ali to the ayat that we brought, even the, pulling the tafsir on some of them and all of that. What is this all based on? One word. How many letters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's too many letters. That's too many letters. It's based on your mentality, how you think about everything, from how you approach the Quran and receiving guidance from it, to how you approach the month of Ramadan, to how you approach Hajj, to how you approach the acceptance of your actions, to how you approach difficult situations, to the ayah from Surah Al-A'raf that we talked about, to how you approach your clothing. All of it comes down to your mentality. All of it comes down to your mindset of knowing al-jalil and what it means to disobey him, knowing at-tanzil and the actions that correspond with it, being okay with a little bit, because satisfaction in what you have is better than being unsatisfied with what you don't have, and remembering the day that you travel back to Allah and doing what you can to prepare for that. All of this is a mentality. And you know, Kobe Bryant, he had that Mamba mentality. Now, if he could have the Mamba mentality for a game that he ran fast with the ball in his hand and jumped high, then what type of mentality are we going to take into the month of Ramadan? You got to have a Taqwa mentality. All of us, we need a Taqwa mentality, all right? And I want to remind you all, in the psychology of sports, there's a concept known as like a light switch mentality. Light switch mentality is where a sports athlete thinks, all right, once I get to the Olympics, I'm gonna perform like an Olympian. Once I get to the Super Bowl, I'm gonna perform like, you know, like I've never had before. Once I get into the finals, like the NBA finals, I'm gonna perform like never before. Even if it's cricket, even if it's rugby, even if it's what's some other obscure sport that Americans don't really think anything about. Polo. The light switch mentality is where a person thinks, once I get in the big situation, I'm gonna perform. But this is a delusion. This is a delusion. You don't perform in the moment. You use moments before the moment to prepare for that moment. The NBA Finals is not the first 7 games of the season. It's the last, after many, many games together, after team chemistry has been developed, after your reflexes and practicing and missing those game-winning shots in the regular season, and even in the games leading up to the NBA Finals, even in the playoff games leading up to the Super Bowl, even in, I don't know what they have in polo, but right down to that last little water polo where you're taking the ball and whatever you're doing in the water, you know, all of those things lead up to that moment. Sometimes we take a light switch mentality into Ramadan. Well, once I got to fast and I don't have a choice, I'm gonna just do it. And that's why many of us spend the first 20 days suffering through Ramadan, as opposed to spending all 30 days benefiting through Ramadan. All of this comes down to your mentality. Turn the lights on now. Turn the taqwa on now. So what are some action items for changing that mentality, knowing that it's 9:02 there and trying to finish up? First and foremost, adopt that Ramadan mindset. Get the Ramadan mentality, all right? Now, I want you to think about Kobe Bryant. He had Mamba mentality for a game. His legacy was based on playing basketball, a game. We're talking about life and death. We're talking about the dunya and the akhirah. We're talking about the biggest stakes that a person can even imagine, bigger than the World Poker Tournament Series or whatever you have. So the first thing to implementing that Ramadan mentality from the question of our brother Waleed is practical steps in increasing your worship. Now, you know it's hard to just wake up on the day that you have to fast for a month and be like, I'm gonna fast for a month. And then you got a headache for the first 3 days, you got a headache for the first 2 weeks, you craving coffee and twitching, you losing out on sleep. Now is the time to start. But don't just go in there and try to deadlift 600 pounds. No, start with your little free weights, get your little Pilates going. You know, even in P90X, they're gonna take you nice and slow. Even in keto, I don't know, I think keto is all or nothing. But take practical steps. Start by adding like a couple of sunnah prayers in the day. If you ain't never prayed your sunnah prayers in a day, then just trying to do all 10 or 12 in a day, it's hard. It's hard. If you, barely read any Quran all year, you're going to pick it up. I'm going to read a juz today. I'm going to read 20 to 22 pages of Quran today. You know that's going to be difficult. And when people start to read Quran for the first time in a long time, the first thing that happens is they get sleepy. You start to yawn, you get really, really tired. It's because your spiritual stamina is low. You got to build up some abs for that. You got to get a little vascular, start popping. You got to get your gains up. So start with 3 lines of Quran every day. Just 3 lines. No, 3 lines. It's not just 3 lines. There's no such thing as just a few surah. No, you gotta build you gotta build your way slowly but surely. So those 3 ayats, think about the hasanats of it, because sometimes we go for broke when it comes to our deen. If I can't do the whole thing, then I'm not gonna do any of it. No, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say you struggle to recite Quran. Say it's hard for you to pick up a mushaf in the first place. Double your reward. And now we're talking about Ramadan, where the reward is multiplied. Or if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, He multiply the reward for you. You think you're looking at 60 hasanat? 60, it's just 60 hasanat. Imagine doing 60 sins. Imagine all the sins you've done. For every hasanat you do, you just wiping them out. Wal asr, boom, it's gone. Why not invest a little bit and then work your way up to invest in a lot? No one will ever tell you, hey, just take $120 and just buy one stock of Google. I think it's even more than that. Just buy one stock of this company, of Take Two, NBA 2K, or just buy one stock. No, make small purchases and then invest big. This is the type of mentality. Go ahead and build yourself up. This is like a spiritual workout regimen. Now, the communal support is the second thing that I want you guys to keep as an action item. Step 1, build up slowly but surely. Step two, communal support. Now, right now, we on a webinar. How many people we got on right now? We got 61 people on this webinar right now. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. That means we can support each other online. We don't have to, we can go to the masjid. I don't want to go to the masjid. I don't feel welcome there. We all feel welcome online. I can't see you, you can see me, but mashallah, we chilling. Let's support each other online. Even if we got to build a COVID-19 shelter-in-place support group, bismillah, let's do it. I didn't want to do this at first, but I broke. I'm doing like a few different webinars throughout the week. Pull up. We having a good time, inshallah. But we have to be able to support each other, because everything about taqwa is meant to benefit the community, and everything about worship in Islam is for community. Prayer in jama'ah, Jumu'ah in jama'ah, Tarawih, fasting, we all do it together as an ummah. Ramadan is one of the times of the year where we all do the same thing at the same time. Even if we differ on when the moon comes and goes, for at least 28 days, we all on the same page, alhamdulillah, inshallah. So let's start to build that support now, even if we start to do it online. And a testament to our sincerity is the fact that we will do it, we will come together, even if we have to do it online. So again, I'm repeating the step 1 again in a different way in step 3. Slowly begin to do a bit of extra. Slowly. Now remember, Ramadan mindset, practical steps to increasing your worship is a little bit at a time. You just said the same thing twice. Yes, I did. But this time, I want you to be mindful of baseless excuses for why you don't do what you should be doing. How, like, what does that mean? Sometimes the person be like, I'm tired, I'm not going to pray my sunnah for Fajr. What's the difference between praying 2 more rak'ahs than praying the 2 that you have to? Don't put some delusional thing in your mind of, oh, well, I'm too tired. That's a baseless excuse. Get up and do the extra. Do not find silly reasons. Oh, well, you know, this new, I'm about to binge watch this thing on Netflix. I finally just finished my homework. I need to relax. You need to relax. Relax by praying to your Lord. Salah does not mean, kill yourself. It's supposed to be easy. Prayer is difficult on people except for the khashi'in. That's the verse from Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2, verse 45. Prayer in and of itself, it can be kind of hard, except if you have khushu'. And the only way to develop khushu' is to keep praying. You gotta keep praying. That's why Allah mentioned sabr in the same ayah, patience in the same ayah as prayer. So the only way to get it is to keep doing it. So don't find baseless excuses for, oh, well, I gotta, what are you doing? We're not hibernating before, the winter. We're not storing up food before we hibernate in the winter. Don't use Sha'ban to store body fat and then that you're gonna burn while you fast. Like, no, that's not a thing. So some baseless excuses, get that stuff out of your head, do the best that you can, inshallah. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, additions, omissions, suggestions, or objections to anything that we just shared? Now I see some questions are coming. Since we went 10 minutes overtime, even though we stopped 10 minutes late, all right? Even though we stopped like a little bit late, I'm going to go ahead and dismiss anyone who needs to leave, inshallah. May Allah make us from amongst the muttaqeen, and may Allah remove this coronavirus shelter in place, this entire fitna from us, from our loved ones, from the ummah, and from the planet at large, from our brothers and sisters, from the ummah of Prophet Muhammad to our brothers and sisters in mankind. May Allah remove this as quickly as it came out of nowhere. Allahumma ameen. Inshallah, we'll see you all next week for part 2, for any of you who have to go. But for the rest of you who are chilling, let's maybe take another 15 minutes to just knock out some questions. Insha'Allahu ta'ala. How can you be satisfied though? How do we embody that mentality? It's like when we're talking about satisfaction, the whole concept of ihsan is to never ever feel like you're doing enough to please. It's like the mentality that you should have as a Muslim when it comes to Allah's pleasure is I can never do enough, so I should do more. Not I can never do enough, so I should do nothing. I can never do enough, so I should always do more. I can never do enough, so I should always do more. I can never do enough, so I should always do more. Having that in your mind is kind of like, look, Kobe, bro, you already won 1 ring. Kobe, bro, you already 3-peated. Kobe, bro, you already look like Michael Jordan. He didn't stop there. LeBron, bro, you already, you know what you're doing in order to be in that physical shape at your age. Bro, mashallah, you won 1 for Cleveland. Stop. Why are you going to LA? If people can do this for basketball, then what will we do for Jannah? And you see in the corporate world, and you see in the business world, and you see in the workplace, and you see in college, people are striving for pieces of paper, whether it be a degree or whether it be money. Bars, okay, bars, kind of bars. What are we doing for the Jannah? So we will devote our mentality of striving for success in everything, but the Jannah, no, go for the Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the Jannah. I mean, I'm still confused on how being the engineer to end all engineers relates to taqwa and ihsan. Like being the engineer to end all engineers, if this is your goal, then you do it. But if you do it with taqwa and ihsan, all right? I always feel like no matter how much I try, it's hard to keep the momentum going with my iman. How do I know this month will be different? Any tips? First pro tip is sometimes like we just go all in, but we go all in the beginning, we burn ourselves out, we treat it like a sprint when we know it's a marathon. You hear the same stuff every year. It's a sprint, not a marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Pace yourself, blah, 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 blah. Start in Sha'ban. We're at the beginning of Sha'ban. We know from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that he used to fast a lot in Sha'ban. This is how you build the momentum. A person who wants to be fit does not work out for a little while and then stop. Key to keeping the momentum is start now. Start now. Don't start in Ramadan. Start now. And as we go through our Ramadan reminders, we're going to give you pieces of advice weekly that you can put in motion. How do we approach potential tarawih in our homes this year? It's like if you don't have a hafiz in your house, pray by yourself, pray with your family, and it's not in tarawih, it's not obligatory for you to read from memory. You can read from a mushaf. Now, next question will be, can I read from my phone? Yeah, but just make sure that you put it in airplane mode. Like turn it all the way off and then open the Quran app. Close everything else, make your phone into a mushaf. Put it in airplane mode, close everything else, and then you can use it like that. And you can recite from it this way. All right. In some masajid, the imam, he has his phone right there to make sure, so that he can correct himself. But he's just chilling in his Ramadan. Do you get hasanat for reading in April? You get hasanat for reading anytime, all the time. So read all the time. Reading in English. Oh. It's not the same as reading it in Arabic. Okay, that's not disputed. But taking the time to seek the knowledge by reading it in English and reading it in a way that you can understand it, then yes, inshallah ta'ala, you get the reward for seeking knowledge, but it's not the same as the reward of reading from the Mus'haf, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. How can we sustain our iman in an environment that can harm it, especially when you're stuck in the house during these times and the household may not be easy to thrive Islamically in? That's actually a great question because many people struggle with this. I can practice Islam anywhere but my house, right? My parents and my siblings, and it's so loud and blah, 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 blah. Look, the Prophet ﷺ was making sajda. He was making sajda, alayhi salatu wasalam, in a place where people dump camel guts on him. We know, the story of Ibn Mas'ud going out and reciting Surah Ar-Rahman, and the people of Quraysh, they beat him so bad that they said that you could not tell the difference between his cheeks and his nose. His face was so swollen, radiallahu anhu. We know that there's times that the Prophet ﷺ was attacked at the Kaaba. Him and Abu Bakr defended him. Like we hear stories like this. I know it's hard, but I want you to know the Prophet ﷺ did not begin practicing Islam in an ideal environment. That doesn't mean you go in your living room while everyone is watching TV and you just Allahu Akbar. Like, don't be that guy. And it doesn't mean while somebody's trying to talk to you, you just pull out a mushaf and just smack them on the forehead with it. A'udhu billah. Like, no, don't be that kid, okay? At the same time, do the best you can, even in your environment, if it's not ideal, okay? And know that this is actually close to the path of the prophets. It's narrated that Nuh alayhi salam, every day that he would go out and give da'wah to his people, and we know from the verse in Surah Al-Ankabut, chapter 29, verse number 11, that he gave da'wah for 950 years, okay? I think it's the verse number 19. It might be 19. Someone check for me. It's either 29 verse 11 or 29 verse 19, but it's in Surah Al-Ankabut. I think it's 950 years, right? 950 years. It said that they used to throw garbage at him until he would pass out. They would take his unconscious body and dump it in the city dump, and that whenever he became conscious again, he would go to his house, he would clean himself off, he would go out the next day and do it. 950 years like that. So even he's not given da'wah in ideal circumstances. Persevere and know that this is closer to the sunnah of the Anbiya, that they would worship Allah in places where people did not accommodate them. All right. Let's get 8 more people in the halaqah, inshallah. Can you mention how we can sit in sunnah? Sit in sunnah. Sitting while praying. Sit in the way that's most comfortable for you, but don't sit like a dog with like your feet and your hands on the ground, like squatting like a dog. And don't cross your legs like crisscross applesauce. They used to say Indian style, but that's no longer politically correct. Sit in the way that's most comfortable for you. Otherwise, you can sit in iftirash, which is where you like put your heel. And I can't demonstrate that, but y'all know what it looks like. Is taqwa our number 1 priority when it comes to our mentality and deen? Taqwa, it's not like okay, taqwa is greater than everything. It's like these are the characteristics that a Muslim should have. Taqwa is one of those characteristics that a Muslim definitely needs, right? What are some sins that can really affect one's stamina and ibadah? Sins affect your stamina and ibadah, all right? Sins affect your stamina and ibadah. But hasanat, doing good deeds, ibadah, erases the effect of your sins, okay? So always be persistent in ibadah. You mentioned in order to have momentum during Ramadan, you have to start now. What do you mean by starting now? Like what we had mentioned over here. First things first, get the mentality, not Mamba mentality, Taqwa mentality. Practical steps, increase your worship incrementally. Do a little bit extra here and there. Have communal support. I know some of the bros are on Discord talking about video games. Remind each other of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People are doing all types of stuff online, FaceTiming and everything. Use your online platform to support each other spiritually, just like how when we come to the masjid for the Friday night program, or you go to the masjid for girls night in North Carolina, at the different masajid, whether it's IAR, ICM, or Apex, or any of the other acronyms, use those things as a means, like if you can't do that in person anymore, that doesn't mean you should stop. We set up this webinar in less than a week. We can do stuff like this, but you don't want to hear me preach at you for an hour and 30 minutes. So be willing to do things amongst yourself to support one another. And last but not least, don't use baseless excuses for not doing the extra that you can. So I hope I answered your question, Yusuf. When is it allowed to make dua in your preferred language if you don't understand Arabic? You can always make dua in your preferred language, except in the obligatory parts of prayer, okay? Like in ruku', there's something that you have to say in Arabic. In sajda, there's something that you have to say in Arabic. In tashahhud, there's something that you have to say in Arabic. But beyond those things, you can say the dua in the language that you prefer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Can you repeatedly recite the same few surah you only know if you're praying Tarawih alone at home, considering the person can't read Quran well? Yes, you can. There's no problem with that. If you want to repeat the same like surah, like say in the first rak'ah and the second rak'ah, you just rock an ikhlas. Go ahead and do it. But I recommend something for you in that case. Read the tafsir. You go online, you go on YouTube, find a Bible source. Don't look up something that has some weird name and be like, oh, this looks good. And then next thing you know, we find you spinning in your house while praying. Like, we don't want to see anything weird like that happen to you. We don't want to find you in your house spinning while praying because of something you've seen on YouTube about Surah Al-Ikhlas 1,000 times, all right? Just read different tafsir, hear different reflections on it, so that as you recite it, you reflect on it in different ways. And there's a ton of explanations of even a surah like Ikhlas, the 112th chapter. but you're going to find that for many of the shorter surah. So be willing to like look those things up. Don't read them out loud. Okay, I'm sorry. You know, I'm human like you. All right. Reading more ijazat or focus more on tafsir or a combination? That's also a really good question. Reading more is good, but focusing on the meaning is also good. I want you all to know that it's not it's not like a sunnah in Tarawih to complete the Quran. Now we all know the Prophet ﷺ, he completed the Quran in Ramadan, but who did he complete it with, alayhi salam? He completed it with Jibreel. So we like, it's more like, it was from we know that the Salafus Salih, they would complete the Quran multiple times in the month of Ramadan. But does it say that they did it in Tarawih? Some of them, they did do it in Tarawih, but some of them, they just did it by themselves. Right? So we made it an obligation, a communal obligation. We're all going to do it in Tarawih. Look, if you can do it, then do it. But if you can't, don't kill yourself over it. All right? Ibn Umar said most of the major companions of the Prophet ﷺ did not know more than 10 surah of Quran. They did not have memorized more than 10 chapters of Quran, but they understood what they meant and they tried to apply it in their lives. So not everyone is going to be hafiz of Quran. Not all of the Sahaba were hafiz of Quran. So if you can do it, if you can read well and you can hold a mushaf, and then go ahead. But don't kill yourself with that. Focus on like the fruit of the Quran. The fruit of the Quran, it does come from its recitation, but the depths of it comes from its understanding. Allah knows best. How should one go about getting non-practicing family members to pray? Don't be a tyrant. You can't act like Fir'aun and then talk like Musa. Okay, you can't act like Fir'aun and then talk like Musa. be a tyrant in your household and be like, but I'm trying to get you to do some good stuff. Like, just take it nice and easy on them. You know, it's really difficult with family because family is closest to you. Trying to get them to do things from Islam, it can be really, really tricky. You're judging me, or you think you're better than me, and all this different type of stuff comes up in these types of discussions. So just try your best to take it easy on them. That's the easiest way. Just be gentle. It's like ice sculpting. If you use a sledgehammer, you'll break it. If you use a toothpick, you'll get nowhere. But you got to break the ice somehow. So just be mindful of how you break that ice. What's an unacceptable speed for prayer? When is it too fast? When is a prayer considered invalid because of speed? So one of the descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ's prayer is that when he was praying, his body would actually like settle into its place. Like the bones would become set, his body would become still. So if you go from standing to ruku', then your body should flatten out. You should actually attain the ruku'. So you can't do this. You can't do this, right? You have to do this, then you do this, and then you go into sajda. So you can't be like, you know, your body has to settle into each. So then in that case, the speed of your prayer is not based on how fast you move, right? The speed of your prayer is based on how much you add to it. I'll give you an example. Whenever you pray, there's dua al-istiftah, like whenever you, after your takbirat al-ihram, or after your opening takbir, you have dua al-istiftah. You have isti'adah, seeking refuge, the opening dua. You have seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan. You have reciting Fatiha, and then you have reciting a surah after it. You can make your dua al-istiftah really long, because some of them are really long. But the one that most people use is the shortest one. Your isti'adah, there's like 4 or 5 different ways that you can make isti'adah, seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan, but most of us use the shortest one. You can recite Fatiha. Some people combine the ayat, some people they don't. But either way, depending on your tartil, like the way that you recite the Quran, it'll either be fast or it'll be slow. And then you can pick a longer surah or with longer verses, or you can pick a shorter one with shorter verses. All of this dictates the speed of your prayer, not like, you shouldn't rush when you recite. It all comes down to the amount of what is recited. It's the same for ruku'. You can say a little bit of dua, you like the bare minimum, or you can say a lot more. Same thing for sajda. You can say like the bare minimum, or you can say a lot more. So that should be what dictates your speed, not how quickly you're moving, right? What do you think the must-dos in Ramadan in terms of extra worship is? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you too, Ameen. The must-dos is praying at night and fasting during the day. I saw Walid, I think, had asked, like, what's the most important thing you can do? These are the best things you can do. Fast during the day, pray at night. But fasting has levels just like how prayer has levels. And that's a part of a much larger discussion. For Witr prayer after Isha, when you recite the dua, can you also dua about yourself and your family? Yeah, you can do that. How long should you sleep during Ramadan? Because look, if you're going to sleep during the day, try not to sleep for more than 45 minutes. And if you're going to sleep at night after Tarawih, like try to sleep like a normal human being. Some of you all fall asleep like this, like looking at your phone. That blue light gonna make you sleep like a crazy person. All right. So with that, inshallah ta'ala, we will reunite next week. If you got a lot of questions, maybe we change the format so that it's not just an hour, because I see a lot of y'all stay on longer. But we can make it a little bit longer, and we can do some things to enhance this. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Inshallah ta'ala, we will talk soon. May Allah keep you all safe. May Allah keep you all strong. And we ask Allah Jalla Jalal to keep all of you and your loved ones safe from harm in all of its forms, and to bless you infinitely in this life and the next. Allahumma ameen. Buritum wa juzitum wa buqitum wa kufitum wa ani shaitanin wa hitum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatuhu wa barakatuh.